Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great today. Okay, so this is a call to action. In just a few days from now, arguably the most important election in Nigeria is going to take place. And I believe that I have a word from God on what Nigerian people, especially Christians, need to do wherever they may be on earth before that day. And I say this with every sense of humility because I'm always very careful when I say God told me something. And that's why it's taken me such a long time to make this video, because I wanted to be sure, double check, cross check. Are you sure this is what you're hearing? And right now, I can confidently tell you that I've got a clear picture of what I believe I was hearing from God, and I'm going to share that with us. But before I share that with us, I want to give us some background information on the nature of the warfare we're about to go into during this election. So many years ago, when I was very active on Facebook, I remember one of those days when we had, I think it was like a whole month program, praying for Nigeria, fasting and praying for Nigeria. I remember that there was a vision that I had in one of those broadcasts. It was a live broadcast. And in that vision, God showed me the diabolical and the spiritual dimensions to the amalgamation of Nigeria. And he took me to Lokoja in Kogi State. As at this moment, I had not read anything about Lokoja with respect to the amalgamation of Nigeria. And when he took me there, he showed me where human sacrifices were made. And he was showing me where they had an Igbo man, a Yoruba man, and a Hausa man, and sacrificed them and let their blood flow together, mixed and flowing together. And I think he also showed me that there was a mighty Iroko tree or something that was planted there as a symbol of the covenant of Nigerian union. And so, implying that when amalgamation happened, it wasn't just that Lord Lugard had written the colonial office in the UK and said, give me permission to amalgamate the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate. It also meant that beyond that window dressing political activity, there was a much deeper exercise that took place, which was the human sacrifice to bind Nigeria by blood and to connect them to a deity that rules Nigeria up until today, which is why no matter what anybody does, Nigeria keeps going backwards. And I'm going to take you to a place where something like this was documented, which many people don't even have access to. So when I saw that, I was puzzled. After that program, that same night that I had the broadcast, I began to do researches and I began to check, because for me at the time, I thought that the place where whatever may have happened, if there was any sacrifice that was made about Nigeria, it must have been at Aso Rock or something, the Zuma Rock or whatever. I kept thinking about those. I never thought about Lokoja. It was during my research I now found out that Lokoja is where the two great rivers of Nigeria met together. That's why Kogi State is called the confluence state. There was a confluence of rivers there. River Niger and River Benue came together, and then both of them joined, formed a Y shape as they flow down to the ocean. And these rivers are worshipped as the gods of fertility if you go and read a little bit more about the River Niger and the River Benue. So these are very diabolical situations we're dealing with. So they met in Lokoja, and as they met there, they flowed down to the oceans. And that's why in your coat of arms, Nigerian coat of arms, you see that there is a bright white shape that is in that coat of arms. It is the River Niger and the River Benue meeting at the center and then flowing down south to the ocean. Now, if you look at the eagle is not a very good eagle that is sitting on top of the Nigerian coat of arms. It's a bloody eagle. This eagle represents the bloodletting that took place at the time of the diabolical amalgamation of Nigeria. The first governor general of Nigeria after amalgamation, which you know to be Lord Frederick Lugard, governed Nigeria from where? From Lokoja. I didn't know all of these things when God was showing me that vision during prayers. People from the three dominant tribes in Nigeria were sacrificed and their blood were meant to flow together. So there was a blood sacrifice that took place to bind and seal Nigeria. So the implication of that, God revealed to me, was that anybody who shall seek to question the union of Nigeria, that person will pay dearly with his blood, which explains why Biafran War ended as a genocide that many people know today. Why is it that every time people want to go for politics or go into politics in Nigeria, they must sell their souls to the devil, even at state and local government levels? Why? Because the God to whom they dedicated Nigeria through the human sacrifices is not the God of heaven. It is Satan himself. And he has sat upon the nation of Nigeria for all these years. Because the coming together of the North and South was not by a gentleman's agreement. It was by force, and it was very satanic. Because they knew that by the time they leave Nigeria, if this was not done with blood, that it would break up immediately. That's why the moment they had that thing done politically, they consolidated it with a human sacrifice that God showed me, which I now had to interview some elders who confirmed this to me, but said it is not meant to be heard. So you see today the kind of enemy that you are up against. So you see why every time there are a set of candidates running for the post of the president of Nigeria, the worst always gets the position. Because the enemy that they sold Nigeria to does not want anything good for the people of Nigeria. If you question too much, you pay with your life. The next time people tried to do that was EndSARS. What happened? Human sacrifices took place. It is not a political war. It's a spiritual warfare. We've been approaching it with a lot of emotions, with empty prayers, without knowledge of what really happened. And so with that background right now, let me tell you what God has told me to tell Nigerians in this season. So he said to me, on the 21st day of February 2023, Christians all over Nigeria and beyond, you don't necessarily have to be a Nigerian. If you love Africa, if you love Nigeria, if you love the indigenous peoples that make up Nigeria, you can join in this exercise. Because as goes Nigeria, so goes the rest of Africa. This concerns all of us. And so the clear instruction that God gave me was that on the 21st, we need to go into a fast. And there were 2 time belts that God gave me for the fast. The first one is 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. The next one is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Whichever one works for you, you take that. And it is going to happen for 3 days. I saw clearly 72 hours. But you can actually overflow yours from the last day, which is the 24th, into the 25th, which is the election day, and terminate it by the time the election is over on that day. So we start from the 21st and we end on the 24th. But you can also end on the 25th, which is the day that I am going to end my own. But let me tell you the other dimension to this fasting program and prayer program that God said I should announce. The other dimension to this program is that it is not only food you are going to be fasting from. You will also fast from immorality, which is the greatest corruption to the body and soul of every Christian anywhere in the world. You are not married to someone, you're sleeping with a person. You're sleeping with somebody's wife. But on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, you are the one who campaigns for your candidate who will bring change the most. But then you don't want to separate yourself from sin. You want to continue to live in sin, but then you want change to come miraculously. There is no connection between sin and miracle anywhere, except if you're looking for magic. And our God is not a magician, He's a miracle worker. When God was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham negotiated with the angels. Do you know what they were looking for? He said, if you find 50 righteous in the city, will you still destroy? He said, no. He said, what if you find 40? He said, no. 30, 20? He said, no. What about 10? He said, if I find 10, this city will be spared. God wasn't asking for 10 prayer warriors who know how to pray and fast. He said 10 righteous people. Because the Bible says the righteousness exalts and preserves a nation, but sin is what? A reproach and a failure. Sin is the key that locks you perpetually in slavery. You can see the story I told you about the sacrifice that has bound Nigeria today. That sacrifice, you know who is the author of that sacrifice. It is not the God of heaven. It is Satan. The same Satan controls the sin that you are a slave to. How can you then fight your master if you don't give up the chains of his slavery by living a holy, righteous life? Righteousness is the greatest weapon with which we will go to this battlefield and win. Because the Bible says it is only together with us that the good things which the Lord has prepared for us shall be made manifest, not in isolation. Together we have a role to play. You can't be mounting on top of prostitutes and be saying, my candidate will win. How? Do you know the people you want to unseat? The people you say you don't want to have come close to the seat of power, that these are the old order, that these are the cabals, they are the ones that destroyed everything in Nigeria. Do you know what they have done? They have imported our fast. They have imported native doctors from different parts of the world. They brought them to Nigeria. Someone confirmed this to me in Abuja. He said, bro, let me explain to you what these guys are doing. He said they bring those guys and they go into a dungeon, dark. They don't even get to see women, let alone have interaction with women. They stay in the dark. Most often than not, they don't even drink water. They fast days. We are talking about 6 to 3, 6 to 6. These guys fast days. And they make incantations towards the candidate that you don't want to see in Aso Rock. But you're busy chasing for anything that is in skirt and saying in the name of Jesus, praying just empty prayers. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach. The government shall be on his shoulders, but the government is not on the shoulders today because God's people have left their place of relevance. So in the fasting that starts on February the 21st, you are not just fasting from food, from water. You're fasting also from sin. And it is not just for this election season. It's going to be a covenant you go into with God. Let's see how many righteous people we can raise. If only 10 could have preserved the Sodom and Gomorrah. Imagine if we have 100, 1,000 or more. This nation called Nigeria will be preserved. God will break the ancient order, the satanic sacrifice and covenant, and redeem everything that the enemy has stolen from us and hand it over to the new generation that is eager and hungry for a change. Can I repeat it again? February 21 to 24, and you're free to go beyond 24 into 25th to the end of the day on the 25th. And all of these that I'm saying to you today is if the election holds, because there are so many signs out there to show that this election may even not hold. And even if it doesn't hold, let me tell you something. Everything is going to work together for our good. I'm going to explain to you why I'm saying this. If the elections don't hold because people are not able to access cash, mobility is terribly hampered, petrol is not there, traders are not selling. If these things are in place and you still expect people to go to the polls to go and vote, it's almost like a waste of time. I don't know how it is going to happen, but let's just say it doesn't happen and we end up with what they call the interim national government. Let me tell you, no matter what you hear from any quarter, do not be afraid of the interim government. Because our prayer is not only aimed at just getting our candidate to win. The prayer is aimed at giving us freedom. It is the freedom that was stolen from us at the point of the diabolical amalgamation of Nigeria that we are seeking to redeem. That's what we're fighting for. So whichever way it comes, we are fine with it. So if it comes to interim national government, we don't have a problem with that. What we are going to say is, nobody breathes it down our throat. There must be equal representation of the component parts that make up what you call Nigeria. Everybody will come around the table, and for the first time in history, we will sit down and debate and decide the destiny and the course of the nation. What happened at the point of the diabolic, satanic, human sacrifice amalgamation was that they took the power to decide who rules you away from you and gave it to Satan. So whenever election comes, it is the one who does the most satanic sacrifice that often wins. It is the one who is worse than the others that often wins. It is why you have Nigeria always going backwards and not going forward, because the devil they handed Nigeria over to does not want anything good for you. You don't have a say in who rules you because you don't own the nation anymore. They took it away from you. So if the interim national government will restore our freedom back to us, it's okay. But if that is not what is happening and we eventually get to the elections, we know the Nigerian masses seem to have decided on one person, and that is as clear as the day to everyone. And that is candidate Peter Obi today. Candidate Peter Obi has got the following and the endorsement of the masses as the man they all believe will lead the change. They will restore hope and freedom to the people. And so, bearing all of that in mind, I want to tell you stuff that will probably blow your mind.